In a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit. Not a nasty, dirty, wet hole filled with the ends of worms and an oozy smell, nor yet a dry, bare, sandy hole with nothing in it to sit down on or to eat. It was a hobbit hole, and that means comfort. This is the story of Bilbo Baggins, a respectable hobbit who never had any adventures or did anything unexpected. He loved his second breakfasts, his pipe weed, and the peace of the Shire. But the world is full of strange chances, and one morning a shadow fell across his door. It was Gandalf the Grey, a wizard of great fame and power. With a mere scratch of his staff on Bilbo's beautiful green door, he sealed the hobbit's fate. That evening, Bilbo's quiet life was shattered. One by one, dwarves began to arrive. First Dwalin, then Balin, Kili, Fili, and many more, until 13 dwarves were raiding his pantry, eating his cakes, and drinking his ale. Last of all came Thorin Oakenshield, a dwarf of great dignity and sadness, the heir to a lost kingdom. They spoke of the lonely mountain, far to the east. They sang low, mournful songs of pine trees roaring on the heights and winds moaning in the night. They sang of a golden hoard stolen from them long ago by Smaug the terrible dragon. Bilbo, bewildered and flustered, learned that he had been chosen by Gandalf to be the 14th member of their company. His official title? The Burglar. Despite his fear, something woke up inside the Tookish part of Bilbo's heritage, a desire to see great mountains, hear the pine trees, and wear a sword. The next morning, leaving his handkerchiefs and his comfort behind, he ran out the door to join the dwarves. The adventure had begun. Their journey was not an easy one. They faced rain and wind, and soon they stumbled into the camp of 3 massive trolls, Tom, Bert, and William. The trolls were arguing over how to cook the dwarves, whether to roast them, mince them, or sit on them one by one. Bilbo tried to prove his worth as a burglar, but was caught. Just as the trolls were debating their culinary options, Gandalf returned. Mimicking their voices, he kept them arguing until the sun rose over the hill. With the first light of dawn, the trolls turned to stone. For stone they were, and stone they shall remain. In the trolls' cave, they found ancient swords. Gandalf took Glamdring, Thorin took Orcrist, and Bilbo found a small elvish dagger, which, for a hobbit, served as a sword. He would later name it Sting. They found brief respite in Rivendell, the last homely house, where Elrond half-elven read the moon letters on Thorin's ancient map. Stand by the grey stone when the thrush knocks, the runes read, and the setting sun with the last light of Durin's day will shine upon the keyhole. This was their clue, their only hope of entering the mountain. But the wild was cruel. Crossing the misty mountains, they were captured by goblins and dragged deep underground to the great goblin's throne. Gandalf saved them with a flash of fire and sparks, and they ran into the dark tunnels. In the panic, Bilbo fell. He tumbled down into the blackest dark, lost and alone. There, in the roots of the mountain, by a cold subterranean lake, Bilbo found something, a simple gold ring lying in the dust. He put it in his pocket without thinking a moment that would change the fate of Middle-earth forever. Then he met Gollum, a small, slimy creature with 2 big, round, pale eyes. Gollum wanted to eat him, but he was intrigued by the hobbit. They agreed to a game of riddles. If Bilbo won, Gollum would show him the way out. If Gollum won, he would eat Bilbo whole. What has roots as nobody sees, is taller than trees, up, up it goes, and yet never grows? Asked Gollum. Mountain, said Bilbo. They traded riddles about wind, dark, and time. Finally, stuck and terrified, Bilbo felt the ring in his pocket. "What have I got in my pocket?" he asked. Gollum hissed. It was not a fair riddle, but he could not answer. He failed. Enraged, he went to find his precious, his magic ring that made him invisible to kill the hobbit. But the ring was gone. Bilbo had it. Realizing the truth, Gollum chased him. Bilbo slipped on the ring and vanished. Invisible, he leaped over Gollum's head and escaped the mountain, reuniting with Gandalf and the dwarves. But their troubles were far from over. Chased by wargs and goblins, they were forced to climb trees, trapping themselves like birds. Just as the fires were lit beneath them, the great eagles of the north swooped down, carrying them to safety. From there, they met Beorn, the skin changer, a great man who could turn into a bear. He gave them ponies and warnings before they reached the edge of Mirkwood. Here, Gandalf had to leave them. "Do not leave the path," he warned. "If you do, you will never find it again." Mirkwood was dark, suffocating, and terrifying. The air was heavy, and eyes watched them from the gloom. Driven mad by hunger and the black squirrels, they saw the lights of wood elves feasting in the forest. Desperate, they left the path. Instantly, the lights vanished, and they were lost. Giant spiders, fat and wicked, descended upon them. They wrapped the dwarves in sticky webs, hanging them like provisions. But Bilbo, invisible with his ring and brave with his sword, fought them off. He taunted them, calling them Attercop and Lazy Lob, leading them away before cutting his friends free. For the first time, the dwarves saw Bilbo not as a burden, but as a leader. However, they were soon captured by the wood elves and taken to the halls of the Elven king Thranduil. Thorin refused to reveal their quest, so they were thrown into dungeons. Once again, it was Bilbo to the rescue. Using his ring, he stole the keys and packed the dwarves into empty wine barrels. He dropped them through a trapdoor into the river, riding a barrel himself, cold and wet, all the way to Lake Town. At Lake Town, the town of men built upon the long lake, Thorin finally revealed himself. "I am Thorin, son of Thrain, son of Thror, king under the mountain. I return." The people cheered, hoping the river would flow with gold once more. Refreshed, they made the final march to the lonely mountain. It was desolate, the land scorched by the dragon. They searched for the secret door but found only smooth rock. Days passed, and hope faded. Then, on Durin's day, a thrush knocked a snail against the stone. The setting sun's last ray hit the rock, and a keyhole appeared. Thorin used his key, and the door swung open. It was Bilbo's turn. He crept down the tunnel, the air growing hot and heavy with the smell of sulphur. Inside the great hall, he saw him. Smaug, the greatest of calamities. A vast, red-golden dragon, sleeping on a pile of gold deeper than a cathedral. Bilbo stole a single two-handled cup, proving his burglary skills. But Smaug woke up. His rage shook the mountain. He hunted for the thief, his fire scorching the cliffs. Later, Bilbo went back down, invisible. He spoke to the dragon in riddles. "I am the barrel rider," he said. Smaug was amused but arrogant. He showed off his diamond-encrusted underbelly, claiming he was impenetrable. But Bilbo noticed a bare patch in the hollow of his left breast, a weakness. Smaug, realizing the men of Lake Town must have helped the intruders, flew into a rage. "I am fire, I am death," he roared, flying south to destroy the town. Fire rained down on Lake Town, houses burned, and the water boiled. The master of the town tried to flee, but Bard the bowman stood firm. The old thrush from the mountain flew to Bard's shoulder and whispered the secret Bilbo had found. "Aim for the hollow in the left breast." Bard drew his black arrow, the last of his quiver. He pulled the string to his ear and loosed the shaft. It flew true, piercing the dragon's heart. With a terrible shriek, Smaug crashed down from the sky, destroying the town in his death throes. The dragon was dead. Back at the mountain, the dwarves reclaimed their treasure. But Thorin was changed. The dragon sickness took hold of him. He became obsessed with the gold, searching desperately for the Arkenstone, the heart of the mountain. Bilbo had found it, but fearing Thorin's madness, he hid it. Armies of men and elves gathered at the mountain's gate, demanding a share of the treasure to rebuild their ruined lives. Thorin refused. He sent for his cousin Dane Ironfoot and an army of dwarves. War seemed inevitable. In a desperate bid for peace, Bilbo sneaked out at night and gave the Arkenstone to Bard and the Elven king. "Use this to bargain," he said. When Thorin found out, his rage was terrible. He would have thrown Bilbo from the rocks had Gandalf not revealed himself. Just as the dwarves, men, and elves were about to clash, a greater darkness arrived. The sky turned black with bats. An army of goblins and wargs, led by Bolg, had come to claim the mountain. "The goblins are upon you!" cried Gandalf. The Battle of Five Armies began. Former enemies fought side by side. Elves fired arrows, dwarves swung axes, and men held the line. But the goblins were too many. They swarmed the mountain. All hope seemed lost. Thorin, shaking off his greed, burst from the gate, rallying his friends. "To me! To me! Elves and men! To me!" he cried, charging into the enemy. But he was outnumbered. Just as the line was breaking, a shout went up, "The eagles! The eagles are coming!" The great birds swept down from the sky, casting the goblins from the cliffs, and then came Beorn in the shape of a giant bear, crushing the goblin leader. The battle was won, but victory came at a cost. Bilbo was led to a tent where Thorin lay dying. The king under the mountain looked at the little hobbit. "If more of us valued food and cheer and song above hoarded gold, it would be a merrier world," he whispered. "Farewell, good thief." If you enjoyed this journey to Middle-earth, please like this video and subscribe to the Story Nook for more timeless tales. Which character was your favourite? Let us know in the comments below. Until our next adventure, farewell.